Find the well by the lake of memory. Guardians protect the cold water. Tell them. I am standing in the centre of a great rectangular hall, with my head held high and my long bright hair wound into an elaborate arrangement that is held in place by a gleaming diadem. My white linen robe is bound with pure gold, and I am still as a statue, with one eye fixed upon the future as the other observes what is past. The air is cool beneath the temple roof, and the only sounds that can be heard are an occasional bleating of goats and the distant murmuring of servants as they make ready for the spring council, which is to be held here in 3.5 days. I have already swept clean the marble floor, and it shines like the full moon of Amelios. Early morning sun rays flood the hallowed space, infusing every atom. Narrow gaps between the thick rounded pillars reveal sections of a motionless scene, silent as if time had ceased. Happy are the men who enter this house and ask of me, "What do you see?" The wisest make the best of the answer they are given, but others seek more, seldom to any avail, for there is a way that we do things at this place, here at the navel of the world, where the future is inscribed on lead. I stand within the fourth Apollonian temple to have been built here, which has undergone extensive repair works following the war which almost destroyed it. The first temple was much smaller than the present building and constructed from branches of Thessaly's sacred laurel trees. The next was created by bees of wax and feathers, designed to bridge the gap between Earth and the underworld. Bees make the journey to and from Hades as a matter of course, and the secrets they retrieve are for the golden ears of Apollo and his twin sister Artemis, keeper of the moon. The third temple was a great bronze edifice which stood for many years before the heat of the sun god melted it back into the earth, and the fourth was built before I took up my office. The fifth shall not be put on its foundations before I have left for the Elysian fields. It is on the 7th day of each month that the future lives of men are unveiled, and they come from all parts of the earth to know what the fates have in store for them. This is except for during the winter months, when twice-born Dionysus returns, and natural chaos reigns in place of Apollo's measured reason. When frost is on the ground and the sheaves of wheat are frozen back into the earth, when the great white star of Maia appears on the horizon, then it is that 9 wild Maenads will herald the arrival of Dionysus. His body is buried close to where I am standing, and during the season our dedications are made for the following year's harvest, while we pray that the sun god will return, his golden youth resurrected anew. When I am satisfied that the purification rituals have been performed correctly and the temple is perfectly clean, I walk towards the entrance of the great hall. It is decorated with all manner of votives, burnished golden shields, statues, cauldrons, tripods, and bows from all 4 corners of the earth. Counted amongst them are the ensigns and symbols of every noble family that is known to this world. I instinctively look up before leaving Apollo's house, to above the entrance where 1,000 garlands of laurel create fragrant canopies beneath the ceiling and pay host to the songbirds that sing his praises. The sweetest voice I ever heard belongs to the nightingale, who reveals to those with ears to hear the innermost longing of the psyche. A pure, shrill note breaks the silence and escapes into Echo's lonely realm. When twilight falls, I shall return. The moment I step from the building and out into the dry, dazzling world, I behold a sea of olives undulating before me. It is a breathtaking panorama which stretches far as the eye can see. I could never grow weary of such a vista, and I remain still here for a few moments, breathing in the warm, sweet aura of tranquillity, giving thanks for the grace of the gods which brought me here to live my days. Anyone who has been here understands that holy Mount Parnassus is the closest place to Elysium on earth. From it springs the fountain of all arts, and poets, artists, and musicians, devoted lovers of all the muses, pay testament to the prophetic mouth of God that wields power and influence here. The Sphinx which guards both the entrance to our temple and mysteries of the world is made of a warm-coloured stone. It blazes in the sun like fire, and I incline my head as I walk past it, down the gleaming marble steps, still surrounded by the monumental dedications of various cities. It is not long before I have entered the walled kitchen yard, where I immediately see one of the Tetrarch's slaves giving water to a small grey ass that is standing in the shade of a fig tree, already unburdened of the offerings he bore. My heart leaps for joy, breaking at once my serenity of mind and implacable demeanour. I kiss the velvety muscle of the faithful beast, for not only do I have quite some affection for the animal, but his owner is of the greatest interest to me as well. His image appears at the front of my mind. Like rays of sun flooding into the temple's cool interior, it penetrates the deep shadows of hidden places. The Tetrarch is the eldest son of the aging Tagos of Thessaly, a great aristocrat of Greece. His tribe, the Eludi of Larissa, was founder of the Amphictyonic League, one of the most powerful military forces in the world. Now that Thessaly is the chief protector of Delphi, its surest and strongest ally, the Tetrarch, as leader of the cavalry, commands more respect than almost any other man who comes here. It is only Cleisthenes of Sicyon whose standing is higher. The Tetrarch conducts much of his official business at the sanctuary, as do the governments of other city-states, for all men come here to learn the secrets of gods. There are also those who wish to meet with their muse, listen to the poets and musicians, or debate with philosophers and other great men of this world. I take a few moments to pet the placid animal, which is dozing peacefully in the dappled shade. His soft nose tickles my palm, and he bows his head for me to scratch his dusty forelock. The warmth of the sun penetrates to my bones, and for a moment I feel relaxed and carefree, as any other 19-year-old girl on a halcyon summer's day. I do not intend to linger long, however, as my reason for being here is to prepare a special elixir for Timocrates, which will be used to facilitate his nightly travels through Psyche's realm. Timocrates is a saint of Delphi, one of the Thracids, and he has been my teacher and guardian for as long as I can remember. He is a highly learned man devoted to my education and well-being. I count myself fortunate it was him and not another the gods decreed must raise me, for he has permitted me a degree of freedom that stricter saints would not tolerate. I understand the value of this privilege, and ensure the fruits of my mind are known to him alone amongst men, together with my lovely and graceful sisters, who are my dearest friends. I make my way into the kitchen and examine a bundle of ingredients that were gathered early this morning, the 7th day of the moon. They are laid on top of a solid myrtle tree table, a gift to the sanctuary from Corinthian priests of Aphrodite. It is from these ingredients that I shall concoct powerful arcana for my earthly guardian. Working steadily and also rather quickly, for it is a task I know well, I clean the plants and divide them into proportions, then place them together in a copper cauldron. I am vigilant about obtaining precise measurements. The preparation of such mixtures is a very exacting science. The production of draughts, tinctures, medicines, elixirs, and arcana is a duty I perform on many occasions, but someone was once foolish enough to ask me what I was cooking, as if I was a common slave. It was such an inappropriate question, I simply declined to answer, which is the case whenever a foolish or inappropriate question is asked of me. Then there are the questions which are worthy of my time, but to which there are no easy answers. Once I was asked when he, Dionysus, first came here. At first I could only smile, for what is time to the kingdom of eternity? There are only hours of the day, seasons of the sun, and cycles marked by the passage of the moon. Most vehemently have I been warned by the saints to never fall beneath the sway of time, because that would bring death to all prophecy. The pendulum might swing, but such as I must master the art of remaining above it in a state of perfect balance, shielded from the terrors of Kronos, who yet we must touch without our hearts failing or minds being lost. Daily am I reminded that ordinary time is of no consequence, and fate unfolds precisely as the gods command it. When this occurs is immaterial, the potential for all action being omnipresent. We are chiefly concerned here with what is infinite, although men so often desire to make fixed points for the dead books of their history. For this reason, Timocrates informed me, quite gravely in fact, when I questioned him on the matter, the League has taken it upon itself to regulate all calendars of the civilized world, that we might subjugate for perpetuity the menace of time at the centre of the earth. I privately doubted it would be possible to truly safeguard the world from time, but kept this thought to myself. For the sake of the inquiry, It is sufficient to say that Dionysus comes at first sighting the Pleiades, accompanied always by Euterpe, whose hypnotic sounds will soar over Parnassus from flutes poised like spears of moonlight on the muse's lips. What happens then? Who can say? It is one of the mysteries we cannot share easily, for like dreams in the stillness of the night, memories of those days are as mist in the fire of morning. Though my mind may roam free, my life here is wholly prescribed in many ways. Indeed, it is set in stone. I sometimes dwell on the fact that nothing ever changes, and perhaps I wish it might, but I am more aware of my good fortune, and that I enjoy privileges the majority of people dare only dream of. And yet I know all too well that I have seen nothing of the world beyond this temple and its outlying areas, although I frequently hear rousing stories of other lands from the men who come here. Stories I have overheard for the most part, or which come to me via my teachers, for it is not permitted for ordinary men to speak freely with a woman who is married to the god. I most often hear about the great foreign kingdoms of Egypt and Persia, seats of wisdom and warfare respectively, and of the various colonies founded abroad by generals and merchants of Greece, often upon the advice of my divinatory office. These tales can cause a sense of longing that I find difficult to overcome, and there are times when I wonder if it is to the sea that I shall one day return. I also wonder about the Tetrarch, who occupies my mind so profoundly that he is by my side in all but body throughout each day. We are bound, he and I, by ties both seen and unseen. There are ties for all to see, because the Tetrarch is an overlord of Delphi, and it was he that insisted I should be appointed Pythia when the former priestess was murdered during the war. Then there are the unseen ties, for I alone have understanding of what he really means to me. Even my sisters do not comprehend the depth of this ocean. To my mind, he is the earthly representation of Apollo himself, and loving one enables me to increase my understanding of the other. How fragile we are beneath the ruthless gaze of our Lord, but how sweet is the perfume of crushed flowers, how healing the oil of their divine essence. My love for Apollo knows no bounds, for his light reaches even into places of darkness. He is my Lord and my protector in times of danger, my guide through moments of chaos. He is the husband I cannot have, the mind which inhabits my own and requires me to master this world. Of all the places that I know to be in existence, I have the greatest desire to see Hyperborea, cradle of my Lord and Master. It is in Hyperborea that the Wax and Feathers Temple may now be seen, for it was carried there in the chariot of Apollo many moons ago and preserved as a portal to the underworld. The Tetrarch seldom comes here during the cold and stormy months of Dionysus. The tyrant Cleisthenes, by contrast, invariably does. But he frequents this place when the god has returned from his travels in Hyperborea. Once, when I was a child and prone to some irrational thinking, I asked Timocrates whether we might follow the god when he journeys to winter to that shining golden land of sun and ice. His answer was decisive and prevented further query. Neither by ship nor on foot could you find the marvellous road to the meeting place of the Hyperboreans. But in any case, it is not for you to pursue gods or men, wherever they may wander, and if you were ever to leave here in order to do such a thing, you could never return and hope to keep your life. I never mentioned it again, as I do of course understand perfectly that this life is not my own to have desires with. I have learned to hold my peace, for the war has instilled in me too much knowledge already of the evils men might inflict upon one another, and careless tongues or minds can spell catastrophe. As I am under scrutiny from most people for much of the time, and some people at all times, I guard my words and deeds minutely, the importance of behaving discreetly being seriously impressed upon me from an early age. As a rule, therefore, my thoughts are carefully measured and then voiced with reason. My mind is generally clear and grasps at nothing, for everyone and everything is waiting for the god to speak through me, and this is the singular reason for my existence. This is the way it is, and always has been, and always will be, lest the gods of Olympus are rearranged with another at their pinnacle. In any case, all of us here are at peace now the war is ended, and our fortunes are so very great. Far be it from me to break such peace. Riches beyond most men's wildest dreams are scattered along our roads as carelessly as leaves, and arts beyond the realms of mortal man's imagination are conceived of and created quite effortlessly from beneath the steady gaze of the master of the muses. Here it is that the true source of inspiration might be found, the fountain of joy, source of birdsong.